Today let's study about connective tissue. Connective tissue is further divided into three categories: connective tissue proper, supportive connective tissue, and fluid connective tissue. Connective tissue proper is further divided into areolar tissue, adipose tissue, and fibrous connective tissue. Areolar tissue is present underneath the skin. It helps to bind skin to the underlying organs. So it's basically a binding tissue. Adipose tissue is also present beneath the skin and its main function is to store fat. Adipose cells store fat and fat acts as an insulator. It keeps the body warm and also acts as a reserve source of energy. The fibrous connective tissue, as the name says, consists of cells which are separated by a matrix which has fibers. This is further divided into two categories: tendon and ligament. Tendons help to join muscles to bones. At a joint where two bones are meeting, some muscles are also attached to that. So joining of muscles to the bones is done by tendon, and joining of two or more bones together is performed by ligament. So we come to connective tissue proper, which is of three kinds: areolar, adipose, and fibrous. And fibrous is further divided into tendon and ligament, where tendons help to join muscles to bones and ligaments help to join two or more bones at a joint. We then move on to supportive connective tissue, which is of two kinds: bone and cartilage. Now, bone forms the supporting framework of our body. It forms the skeleton of the body, whereas cartilage is present only in flexible parts of the body, like the pinna of the ear, that is the external ear, the tip of the nose, or at the end of long bones. Wherever flexible support is needed in the body, cartilage is present. Now, bone cells are called osteocytes or osteoblasts, and cartilage cells are called chondrocytes. Let's take a look at the arrangement of the cells. Take a good look at the diagrams in your book on page number 28, and see here, these are the cartilage cells, which are also called chondrocytes. These chondrocytes are arranged in groups of 2s, usually 4s, sometimes even 8s, and they are lying in isolated patches in the matrix, and the clear spaces inside which these cells are located are called lacuna. This is an empty lacuna. Usually a lacuna has 1, 2 or 4 cartilage cells, which are also called chondrocytes. This is how bone cells are arranged. Now, bone cells are arranged in concentric rings. You can see these are concentric rings. Circles or rings having a common center are called concentric circles. So this is what an individual bone cell looks like, which is called an osteoblast. And these cells are arranged in concentric circles or rings around a central canal. And this canal is called Haversian canal. This is a TS of the bone, showing arrangement of osteocytes or osteoblasts in concentric circles, which are called lamellae, and around a central canal, which is called Haversian canal. And you can see the white space, the space between the concentric lamellae, that is filled with matrix. So if you see, the first difference between cartilage and bone is in the arrangement of cells. Cartilage cells lie in groups of 2s, 4s, 8s, whereas bone cells are arranged in concentric rings. Other differences can be noted down here. Cartilage is a non-porous tissue, whereas bone is a hard porous tissue. This is one difference which you can underline and mark in your book. In cartilage cells, there is no supply of blood vessels and nerves, whereas bone has a good supply of blood vessels and nerves. This can be marked as the second difference. This is a flexible non-porous tissue. This is a hard porous tissue. This has no blood vessels and nerves. This has a good supply of blood vessels and nerves. Cartilage cells called chondrocytes lie in groups of 2s, 4s, 8s. whereas bone cells called osteoblasts are arranged in concentric circles called lamellae. Moreover, the matrix of the bone is very hard and rigid because it has lot of calcium and phosphorus salts as compared to the matrix of cartilage. Bone forms is present in the entire body as it forms the skeleton, whereas cartilage is found only at the tip of external ears, in the trachea as rings, in the bronchial tubes giving support to them, in between the vertebra again acting as a cushion, at the end of long bones where also it acts as a shock absorber. So wherever flexible support is to be provided or absorption from shock is to be provided, cartilage is present in our body, and it has no blood or nerve supply. That is why it doesn't hurt that much when we get our ears pierced or nose pierced, because pinna and nose have cartilage in them. Next we move on to the fluid connective tissue, which is again of two kinds, blood and lymph. Now blood is red in color. It's about fluid connective tissue. So blood is red in color, whereas lymph is straw colored or not red but light yellow in color. This is because blood has basically a liquid part, and that liquid part is called plasma, whereas it has a cellular part or corpuscular part which has three kinds of cells. And what are they? RBC, WBC, that is white blood cells or white blood corpuscles, and platelets. So blood has a liquid part and a cellular part. Liquid part is called plasma and cellular part consists of RBC, WBC and platelets. Whereas lymph is also formed from blood only when blood leaks out through the capillaries, but it only consists of a liquid part called plasma, and the cellular part only has WBCs. That too, WBCs are of several kinds. The most predominant one is lymphocyte, and this is from where lymph gets its name, from the word lymphocyte. So if I compare blood with lymph, blood is red in color because it has red blood cells, but lymph doesn't have RBCs. That is why it is straw colored, like hay or straw, or we can say pale yellow in color, because RBCs contain a pigment called hemoglobin. You all know hemoglobin is the red colored pigment which gives the color to RBC, which in turn give color to blood. Again, if you notice, no platelets are present in lymph. So if we have to distinguish between the two, blood has plasma, RBC, WBC and platelets, but lymph has only plasma and WBCs. What is absent here? RBCs and platelets. Blood is red in color due to the presence of hemoglobin, but lymph is straw colored as hemoglobin or RBCs are absent. Blood flows through blood vessels, whereas lymph is present surrounding the body cells, and it is carried by the lymph vessels to different parts of the body. Blood is mainly concerned with transport of oxygen and nutrients. RBCs are doing transport of oxygen and other nutrients. WBCs acting as soldiers of the body, protecting the body from diseases, germs or any sort of infection. They are soldiers. And platelets help in clotting of blood. Your RBCs are also called erythrocytes. WBCs are also called leukocytes, and platelets are also called thrombocytes, from the word thrombus, because platelets help in clot formation. Whenever you fall down and you cut your skin, the blood starts oozing out. After some time, bleeding stops because what is formed there? A clot. So platelets help in clot formation. And functions of RBC, WBC, platelets and plasma, which is carrying antibodies and many such nutrients, it's all together, it comprises of the functions of blood. Whereas lymph mainly forms the defense port of our body, because lymph basically consists of lymphocytes, and lymphocytes' main role is antibody production. antibodies are produced by our immune system, basically by whom? By the lymphocytes. So lymph is mainly concerned with providing defense to the body as it helps in production of antibodies. Next we move on to muscular tissue. Now muscles are of three kinds. Striated, which are also striped because they have stripes on them, or dark and light bands on them. They are also called voluntary. Voluntary means they are under the control of our will. When you want, you can contract them. When you want, you can relax them. Example, muscles in your arms and legs. When you want them, you can contract them and relax them. So it's under the control of your will or wish. That is why voluntary. They are also called skeletal muscles because they are found attached to the skeleton. So various names are there and every name has a significance. Next we have unstriated. Now you can put 2 and 2 together. If striated is striped, unstriated would be unstriped or without stripes. Striated is voluntary, that is under the control of your will, and unstriated is involuntary. That means you can't control the contraction and relaxation, like muscles in your stomach and intestine wall or in the walls of your urinary bladder. You cannot control their contraction and relaxation. It happens on its own. Another name for unstriated muscles is smooth muscles. Smooth because it is present in the walls. Remember, muscular tissue is always present in the walls. So it's present in the walls of the visceral organs. Visceral organs are the internal organs present in our viscera or in our abdominal region, like your stomach or like your urinary bladder. So that is why these muscles are called smooth muscles also. So these are the other names of unstriated muscles. Cardiac, as the name itself points out, these muscles are present only at one location, and that is in the, you need to mention, in the walls of heart. Now you know heart contracts and relaxes throughout life without getting tired. So cardiac muscles work tirelessly throughout life without getting tired, and they are present in the walls of the heart. If we compare the structure of the three muscles, let's refer to the diagram made in your books on page 29. These are the three muscles which are shown here. First of all, you'll see the cardiac muscles. Now in the cardiac muscles, you can see a number of stripes or striations. These are the dark bands and in between them are the light bands. So these muscles are striped. They have alternate dark and light bands. They are not branched. Cardiac muscles have dark and light bands, but as you can see, they are branched. So a basic structural difference between striated and cardiac is striated has cylindrical cells with dark and light bands, but they are unbranched, whereas these muscles, that is cardiac, also have dark and light bands, but they are branched, and they are also made up of cylindrical fibers. Now a cardiac striated muscle can have more than one nucleus. Usually more are present here. So such muscles are called multinucleate. Whereas here in one cardiac cell we find only one nucleus, so they are uninucleate. Another structural difference between striated and cardiac. Unstriated muscles are very typical in their shape. They are spindle shaped, just like a fish or like the hull of a ship, where you see they are meeting at the end. So these are tapering ends and broad in between. Such a shape is a streamlined shape or a spindle shape, having a single nucleus here. So unstriated muscles are spindle shaped. Striated muscles have cylindrical fibers with dark and light bands. Cardiac muscles have dark and light bands, cylindrical fibers, but they are branched. These are multinucleate, these are uninucleate, these are uninucleate. So this is a structural difference between the three. We know that this is present in the walls of the or attached to the skeleton. This is present in the walls of the internal organs, and this is present in the walls of the heart.